We head to Woking right now. Sorting out Woking's finances could take decades and will involve years of emergency measures. That is the message, actually, from the council's leader. A new report showing that Woking is struggling to pay off its debts and there'll be a need to have significant savings. Let's bring in Ann-Marie Barker, who is the Liberal Democrat leader of the Borough Council. Morning to you.
Good morning, James.
Let's talk about how serious these problems are and why things have got so bad.
Yes, so we're looking at the moment that a balanced budget can be set for this year, which is what a council needs to do in the next month or so. But beyond that, I think we could be struggling. And it all comes down to Woking's high level of borrowing and the repayments on that borrowing. So we've got sort of £60 million a year of repayments, which is about 5 times the income the council gets each year from council tax. So you can see the scale of the issue there. And it's arisen because in the past the council have had very ambitious plans and relied on income from commercial and retail property and car parking to actually fund those payments, and they've just fallen back. They're just not coming through as much as they were, and there wasn't enough provision made in the business plans for borrowing. There wasn't enough provision made to set aside some money. So sort of taking a prudent approach to set aside some money to make sure there was enough to pay back the borrowing. So we're just having to deal with that now.
Right, £60 million a year is what you've got to repay. How big a sum is the big debt?
So the debt overall is £2.4 billion.
Crikey.
Yes.
So what was it estimated to be? Because I know that they've had all the building work, which Woking Council have had the towers that everyone can see. Has that gone way over budget then?
The budget for that did increase dramatically. So that's the Victoria Square development. So you've got the flats there, the residential area, shops and hotel. So it's a significant development, and it also regenerated an area of the town that was a bit sort of run down. So there was quite a lot of significant infrastructure work around that. But it started off, I think it was about a £250 million project, and then it went to 400 million, and in the end it went up to 700 million. So absolutely huge increases over time.
What's this actually mean? What kind of cuts might you actually have to make to services?
So we've already had to put through some increases in prices that we wouldn't have wanted to do. We decided those at the end of last year for implementation from April onwards. And now we're just looking overall at a general reduction in the level of service we've been able to give to residents. So it might take you longer to get a planning application decided, for example. Litter bins might be emptied less frequently. There might not be the opportunities to repair equipment in parks and playgrounds, or to refurbish and sort of update the equipment in those places. We might be able to offer fewer meals on wheels to residents. It's just everything having to be looked at. The council officers have been working very hard to look at exactly what we do offer and what we can afford to offer in future. It's a real challenge and not something that we want to be doing. But listeners may recall that earlier in the year, the council received a letter from the government, the Department of Levelling Up Housing and Communities, telling us that they were looking into our finances. And they're actually going to be with us from next week as the next stage of that process. So if we weren't making these difficult decisions for ourselves, I think they'd be making those decisions for us.
We've seen councils go bankrupt in the past. How likely is that going to be for Woking?
Councils can't actually go bankrupt, but they can declare what's called a Section 114. You've probably seen other councils, so Slough would be one, and Croydon in the not too far away, that have gone into that situation. So I have to say that when we were looking at the budgets for this year, at one point we thought that that could be a possibility. It now looks like we're not there for this year, but it is a big concern for the coming years. So it is a possibility. It is there. It is a possibility of what could happen to Woking.
Do you think for residents, and I'm one, I live in Woking, do you think our area's just going to look more shabby and less well looked after?
I think that is a possibility. Obviously, that is something we would like not to happen. We'll be trying very hard to maintain and make sure some of the essential services continue to be delivered. But as I said, it might be we have to reduce the frequency of bins being emptied, for example. That's going to potentially make the area look less appealing. I think it's important to attract people here.
Can I just check, is that domestic bins, household bins, or are you talking about the public ones?
I'm meaning about things like litter bins and things like that. But we may need to say, for example, okay, you get your bins emptied a little bit less often, for example. So it's not every other week, it's every 3 weeks for your recycling, for example. Rather than every other week. That's the sort of thing, I guess, is a possibility. It's not a proposal we've made at the moment, but that is a possibility. The sorts of things we'll have to consider, the sort of difficult decisions we've got to make, because we need to move Woking. I think what Woking has become in recent years, with all of the funding it's given to a range of different projects, it's becoming more of a bank than a local authority. And what we're trying to work towards is to make Woking in future a successful council, not a failing bank.
Thanks for your time this morning. It's a pretty sort of bleak outlook. Ann-Marie Barker, who's the Liberal Democrat leader of Woking Borough Council. And we did approach the Conservatives, but they say their group leader, Kevin Davis, wasn't available to join us this morning. They say in a statement that no one would deny that the economic situation has got worse this year for the new administration, but at the same time, it was the same for the Conservatives when the credit crunch hit in 2009 and then COVID in 2020. They say that instead of blaming everyone else, they got on and dealt with those problems, and the Lib Dems should do the same. Saying that, I don't think Ann-Marie mentioned the Conservatives in that interview once, just to actually note. 14 minutes.